calculating mass and charge and representing it for an atom. Okay, here's a periodic table. ptable.com is a great one to go to because it has a lot of information for you. Now, how elements are represented on the periodic table. Here's an example of hydrogen. You can see it right here at the top left. So you have in the center the letters for the symbol of the element. The first letter is always capitalized, and any other letters are not capitalized. That's important. See magnesium here, capital M, lowercase g. Why is it important? Because if you have, for example, nickel, capital N, lowercase I, that's not the same as nitrogen and iodine. And capital N, capital I would be nitrogen and iodine, where capital N, lowercase I is nickel. The other thing you're going to see on the periodic table is a number above the element symbol, and that tells you the atomic number, which is the same thing as how many protons an element has. The number of protons is the element's identity. Watch. Hydrogen is the first element. It has one proton, always. If the number of protons changes, it's not hydrogen anymore. If there's 2 protons, it's helium. Look at the number above it. If there's 3, lithium. If there's 4, beryllium, and so forth. The entire periodic table, all the elements are defined by their number of protons, also called the atomic number. You're also going to see a number below the element symbol, and that's the average atomic mass. You'll learn about that later. Right now, let's learn about charge and atomic mass. So here's how you would write out the symbol for an element. Okay, in the center goes the symbol, which is, again, the letters, like H for hydrogen. On the top left, and these things might not always be showing, but if they are, they give you that information. So the top left is the atomic mass. The bottom left is the atomic number. Remember, that's also number of protons. In the top right is the charge. In the bottom right is the quantity, how many of that element there is. Okay. How do you get the atomic number? You just look on the periodic table, right? So hydrogen, right above it is the atomic number. The atomic number for hydrogen is 1. The atomic number for titanium is 22. The atomic number for calcium is 20. The atomic number for lithium is 3. See, it's right above it. That's the atomic number and also how many protons there are. How do you find the mass? You add up protons plus neutrons. Remember, in an element, the protons and the neutrons are in the center of the atom, and they have mass, where the electrons are floating around on the outside and they don't have enough mass to count. When you want to know the mass, you just add protons plus neutrons. How do we find the charge? To find the charge, you take the protons and you subtract, that should be electrons, the number of electrons. Why? Because protons have a +1 charge each, and electrons have a -1 charge each. So if you want to know the total charge of that atom, you take the protons and you subtract the electrons. And if it's a negative number, that's okay. Let's look at an example here. What is the symbol for a sodium atom with 12 neutrons and 10 electrons? Okay, first we look at the periodic table. Here's sodium. The symbol is Na. So we write that down. What else do we know? Well, we know it has 12 neutrons, so we can find the mass. Let's look again at sodium. The number above it is the number of protons. That's 11. That's important. It has 11 protons. We're going to write that in the bottom left. Okay, if we know it has 12 neutrons, now we can find the mass, because mass is protons plus neutrons. Protons plus neutrons is mass. So 11, number of protons, plus 12 neutrons, it told us that in the question. 12 plus 11 is 23. So that goes right up here in the top left. Again, we're writing it down because we know it. That might not always show up for you, but if it's there, it's valuable information. Okay, also it tells us the number of electrons. It says there's 10 electrons. Let's look again at the periodic table. Here's sodium. It started with 11 protons. You see the atomic number at the top, 11. That means if it was neutral, it would also have 11 electrons. But because it only has 10 electrons, it's going to have a charge. The protons are not equal to the electrons. There's going to be a charge. How do we find the charge? Protons minus electrons. So the number of protons is 11. We subtract the electrons, which is 10. It tells us that in the question. And our charge is 1 plus. It's important to put the plus or minus. Okay? So 11 minus 10 is 1 plus. If it was a negative number, you'd have a minus there, but it's a positive number. 11 minus 10 is 1 plus. All right, let's do some practice problems here. Charge practice. How many electrons would a neutral lithium atom have? Okay, let's look at lithium. It has 3 protons. It tells you on the periodic table right above it. 3 protons. So if it's neutral is the same as 0 charge. 0 charge, no charge. That's neutral. So if it has 3 protons to start off, okay, because our charge is equal to protons minus electrons. So right now it has 3 protons, and we want a neutral charge, so 3 minus what equals 0? Well, 3 minus 3 equals 0. So the answer is 3 electrons. Let's try the next one. What is the charge of a sulfur atom if it gains 2 electrons? If it gains 2 electrons. Okay, so sulfur. Let's find sulfur. Here it is. It's a nonmetal. So if you look at sulfur, it has 16 protons to start with. So charge equals, again, protons, subtract electrons. So it starts with 16 protons. It gained 2 electrons, so now it's 16 plus 2, 18. Okay. So now it's going to be 16 subtract 18. That gives us a 2 minus charge. Again, it's negative, so you got to put that at the end, either plus or minus. So it's a 2 negative charge. Okay, how many electrons does magnesium with a 2 plus charge have? The 2 plus charge, you see it in the top right here? That's the charge, so it's a 2 plus charge. Okay, so first let's find magnesium on the periodic table, and it has 12 protons. So again, charge equals protons subtract electrons. And in this case, the charge is 2 plus. We know the number of protons is right there in the periodic table. It's 12. So 12 protons minus what to give us 2 plus? 10. 12 minus 10 is positive 2. So the answer is 10 electrons. Let's try some mass now. How many neutrons does this atom have? And it shows an arsenic. And on the top is 75. Remember, that's the total mass. And on the bottom, it says 33. That's the number of protons. How many neutrons does it have? Well, equals protons plus neutrons. Okay. How many protons? 33 plus what will give us 75? Okay? We got to find that missing amount. How many neutrons are there? Well, the easy way to do this is 75 subtract 33. And we'll get 5 minus 3 is 2, 7 minus 3 is 4, so we have 42 neutrons. Let's double check. 33 plus 42 is 75. Good. Last one. What is the mass of calcium with 21 neutrons? Mass equals protons plus neutrons. So let's check calcium on the periodic table. Calcium has 20 protons. 20 protons. All right, 20 plus, and the question tells us 21 neutrons equals 41. That's our mass.